Part 108. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1071. The human monks retreated, and except for Zuyun, only one person and two monsters remained at the ruins of the city lord's mansion. Shen Nan, Master Tianhu, and the dragon leader. Fellow Daoist Shen, congratulations on reaching the peak of the late nascent soul. Zuyun said with a smile. Congratulations to Senior. Shen Nan cupped his hands and then said with a wry smile, don't laugh at Junior. You are a powerful senior in the spiritual world, worthy of fellow Taoist Junior. Each one's opinion, Zuyun said with a smile, in this mortal world, I am only at the peak of the late nascent soul stage, so why do I need to think so highly of myself? Zuyun's words impressed the two demon kings beside him. Master Tianhu clasped his fists and said, Friend Zhu, you have solved the human race's crisis and eliminated the harm for our demon race. But in White Tiger City, what's next? Zuyun nodded and said, Master Tianhu has great prestige, why don't you be the city lord? Although Master Tianhu had selfish motives before, his ultimate goal was just to go to the spirit world. Faced with the big issues of right and wrong, he still made the right choice and stood on Zuyun's side. At the very least, he also knew that the nightmare demon practiced the 10,000 blood evil art and informed Zuyun. Yes, Jiao Wei also said at this time, Master Tianhu has always been fair in his actions, which can be seen from his yearbook treasures. I think it is most suitable for Master Tianhu to take the position of City Lord. I am also willing to cooperate with Tianhu. Master Tiger. The Jiao Guard is a close confidant of the Nightmare Demon, at least on the surface. He is very majestic and can give orders to the other demon kings. The most important thing is that the Nightmare Demon's conspiracy is clearly exposed. If this matter is publicized, I believe that those demon kings or other demon cultivators will naturally no longer have the idea of revenge for the city lord. What the Nightmare Demon did could be said to be an enemy of all creatures in the West Mortal realm. Ruining the path to immortality is a great revenge. That's very good. Zuyun took a deep look at Jiao Wei, and then said with a smile, this move by the leader of Jiao can be said to be a great joy for the demon clan. Senior, you are so complimentary. Facing Zuyun, Jiao Wei did not dare to be disrespectful at all, and bowed and said, Senior, this is an act of great justice, and he is the benefactor of the demon clan like us. Come to think of it, those demon kings, including the original junior colleagues, will also agree with this. Zuyun nodded slightly and said, what happened here is over, and it's time for me to leave. You guys, just go wherever you need to go. Zuyun failed to succeed in the White Tiger Fist, which made him feel a little disappointed. What was even more serious at this time was that the 10,000 blood evil formation had been deeply embedded in his body. He needed to find a place to enter the immortal mansion. Then break the formation. The great universe immortal fell into a deep sleep, and he could only rely on himself for everything. However, after understanding the principle of simplicity, it will only take time at most for this formation to break. Senior Zhu, are you going back to the spirit world? Shen Nan asked quickly. Not necessarily. Zuyun shook his head, thought of something again, and said to Shen Nan, do you human race have a family that leads the way? Shen Nan was slightly stunned and said, Guide. How can any family be named after this? Zuyun didn't bother to explain. He thought that the Lin family had all been killed by the Nightmare Demon King. In this way, human monks passing through the passage in the spirit world would be very likely to get lost in it. In addition, the nascent soul itself is restricted by him, and the number is very small. He was trying his best to prevent his actions from spreading to the spiritual world, thus attracting some righteous people to come and kill him. This nightmare monster is really difficult to deal with. A guide is someone who guides the human monks to safely pass through the passage to the spirit world and go to the spiritual world. If there is no guide, there is a high probability that he will die in the passage. Shen Nan exclaimed and said, no wonder there is a pill called Divine Eye Pill. I guess it was the city lord who took advantage of our human race. Senior Zhu, dare I ask if there is a recipe for this pill? Anyway, Zhu Yun had done a lot, and Shen Nan was shameless enough to beg Zhu Yun. I don't have the recipe for this elixir. Zhu Yun thought of the void-breaking spiritual eye technique he left for the southern mortal realm and smiled, but I can teach you the eye technique. Shen Nan was still a little disappointed whether he heard it or not, but when he heard that Zhu Yun was going to use the eye transmission technique, he couldn't help but his breath froze, and then he was ecstatic. Master Tianhu, do you have a pen and paper with you? Yes, yes. Master Tianhu studies alchemy and has all these things in the storage bag. Zhu Yun took the writing brush and wrote down the first 3 layers of the breaking void spirit eye technique in detail on the paper. Anyway, the ancestor of the Lin family told him that this was a modified immortal method, and it didn't matter if he passed it on casually. In the spirit world, the void-breaking spiritual eye technique is useless. But Shen Nan became more and more frightened as he watched. He couldn't help but think that if he could learn this method, he would be able to see through the illusion at a glance if there were any treasure hunting places in the spiritual world. But after Zhu Yun finished writing, he poured cold water on him. Okay, this is just a pupil technique used by the Lin family to guide people through the maze, so naturally it is of little use. Zhu Yun smiled and comforted, the method of cultivating immortality is only the one that suits you best. After saying that, Zhu Yun laughed loudly and walked towards the outside of the city. The speaker was unintentional, but the listener was intentional. If Shen Nan realized something, so did the other 2 demon kings. By the time they came to their senses, Zhu Yun was already far away. Although there is no spiritual power available, Zhu Yun's longevity secret can be driven by only the power of the physical body. Shen Nan murmured, Senior Zhu's movement technique obviously does not have a trace of spiritual power, but it is so mysterious. Jiao Wei said meaningfully, if I can go to the spirit world, I must find Senior Zhu. Master Tianhu was very free and easy at this time. If you want to go to the spirit world, then practice well. However, for now, we should unite the demons and not fight against the human race, but be in harmony with them. After that, he looked at Shen Nan and said, fellow Daoist Shen, the human race still needs your care. Shen Nan came back to his senses and nodded, I will stay in Beihu City temporarily and help the Lord of Tianhu City first. Thank you. Zhu Yun avoided the gathering place of the demon cultivators who escaped from the city through his soul perception and walked more than 100 miles away. After seeing that it was safe, he found a valley and entered the fairy house. Whew! He let out a long breath and finally let go of all his defenses. After killing the nightmare monster, he had been acting, and of course he had many heartfelt words. For example, the human race, for example, the demon race. White Tiger Fist, still need to be practiced, 4 punches only need this 1 punch. Zhu Yun thought about it in his heart, and suddenly remembered his Qinglong Fist. I learned the Azure Dragon Fist in the spirit realm. At that time, I guessed that the Azure Dragon Fist was because I came from the Eastern Mortal Realm. Now that I have been to the Western Mortal Realm, I may be able to learn the White Tiger Fist when I return to the spirit realm. This can be put aside for the time being. For now, I still have to untie the shackles of the 10,000 blood evil formation. After entering the immortal mansion, the restrictions of the heavenly Dao were eliminated, and Zhu Yun was surprised to find that the entanglement of the 3 bloodlights had actually become somewhat weaker. It should be the suppression of the realm. In the mortal realm, I was only in the nascent soul stage, so the nightmare demon king succeeded. But in the immortal mansion, I am a genuine god transformation stage. Feeling that he could use some chaos power, Zhu Yun was also ecstatic in his heart, and a hint of arc appeared at the corner of his mouth. Let's try to refine the chi first. Maybe after the chaos power is fully restored, it will naturally break through the shackles. Zuyun sat on the edge of the void, but he did not enter into meditation immediately, but looked at the bedroom. The windows and doors were closed, perhaps Nujiao was practicing her swordsmanship inside. There is no sword in the hand, but there is a sword in the heart, and flying flowers and picking leaves can all be swords. Isn't this also the truth that different paths lead to the same destination? Zuyun smiled easily, retracted his gaze, and then closed his eyes, and began to practice the chi refining method of the 5 elements Chaos Sutra. The gray and white gas crossed the void and slowly flowed into Zuyun's body, passing through the 9 meridians and gathering in the lotus pod. For a long time, Zuyun opened his eyes, and the chaos power was full. The 27 lotus hearts were shining brightly, and there was a faint glow of fire. Huh? This is lotus fire. Zuyun was stunned, and then he remembered again. The fire lotus gave birth to the lotus fire, and attached to the chaos lotus. I don't know if there will be any changes in the future. But at this time, it seems that there is no harm. Retracting his mind, Zuyun focused on the shackles. The 3-color blood light had dimmed a lot, but there was no sign of dissipation. Zuyun frowned. He had the divine eye technique, but he couldn't see inside, so he couldn't see where the array pattern was. Or, find the Lin family ancestor and ask him to use the divine eye technique to help see if he can find the array pattern and then draw it. Zuyun's heart was moved. The Lin family ancestor existed in the form of a brush, so he thought he could draw it. He got up and returned to the cave. Zuyun took out the heavenly talisman, and then entered the space in the book. But just as his figure appeared, a mountain flew out of the void and pressed down on Zuyun. This momentum seemed to suppress him completely. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1072. Even if the ancestor of the Lin family left behind a remnant soul, it was still an immortal soul. But Zuyun was only in the stage of becoming a god. In other words, he is just like an ant in front of this roaring mountain. Zuyun shouted in shock, "Brother Lin, what are you doing?" But the mountain didn't stop at all. Instead, the roar of the ancestor of the Lin family came out. "Yexian. I thought you were a kind person, but I didn't expect that you also practice the evil Immortals method. My Lin family has guarded Purgatory Mountain for generations, with the mission of suppressing the evil immortal. Even if you are worthy of my brother, Lin will only even the remaining souls will be suppressed." "Brother Lin, you misunderstood." Zuyun was horrified. He originally thought that the Purgatory Mountain in the book's space was just an illusion, used by the ancestor of the Lin family to scare people. Unexpectedly, this momentum made his spirit extremely tremble. What's the misunderstanding? The ancestor of the Lin family did not show up, and the voice came from all directions, with a cold meaning, saying, "Do you think I can't recognize the evil method of 10,000 blood that I learned from the lower world? Yexian, don't worry, Purgatory Mountain there is no pain under the pressure. You will be grateful to me." Zuyun didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He had nothing to say to refute. Facing the Purgatory Mountain that he couldn't avoid at all, with a thought in his mind, he instantly exited the space in the book. In the cave, Zuyun was covered in sweat. "Fortunately, I refined this sky talisman, otherwise I would really be trapped inside." This ancestor of the Lin family didn't even give me a chance to explain. Zuyun wiped his face and murmured to himself, "He should have felt the evil formation of 10,000 blood in my body, but this is actually the evil skill of the immortal world." In other words, if the nightmare demon continues to practice all the way, he will finally be able to become an evil immortal? Then Luo immortal, seems to be practicing evil methods, can he become an evil immortal? Zuyunruo realized something, but he still didn't believe it. This was just the lowest yellow-level world star in the immortal world. How could he still cultivate an evil immortal? And there's not just one. If I hadn't encountered it myself, I wouldn't have dared to imagine it. Forget it, it's just bad luck for me to encounter these things. Zuyun shook his head, and now he had to solve his dilemma first. Otherwise, let alone going to the East Mortal world or the Spirit world, if something happens to the West Mortal world, he may die here. No matter the human race or the demon race, maybe they will be grateful to him at this time. But as time goes by, it could be different. It still has to be done as soon as possible. But once he entered the space in the book, the ancestor of the Lin family did not give himself a chance to speak. Zuyun racked his brains and sat on the stone bed for a long time, but he couldn't find a solution and finally had to give up. It seems that we can only wait for Nujiao to finish her training. I don't know when she will be able to master her sword skills. Zuyun was speechless for a while, then walked out of the cave, glanced at the bedroom, thought for a moment, then took out the intermediate talisman paper left earlier, left a message on it, and stuffed it through the window. I believe that when Nujiao wakes up, she will know that she has something to ask for. After that, Zuyun entered the great universe world. In addition to taking a look at the totem poles, he also planned to take a good walk around the great universe world to see what changes had taken place. The formation immortal was sleeping, and he didn't know when he would wake up. Zuyun had nothing to do, so he simply regarded it as relaxing. He has been cultivating immortality for decades, but in fact his mental age is no different from that of a monk who has been cultivating for thousands of years. East Mortal Realm, East Sheng Realm, 7-star sect. Sect Master, a demon king is visiting. A pill-forming monk suddenly rushed to Yesuanhua and announced loudly. Demon King? Are you from the 12 major demon clans? Yesuanhua put down a booklet in his hand and walked outside. At this time, only a few years had passed since the demon refining tower was suppressed here. Yesuanhua was only in the stage of forming pills. The sect master is not, it seems to be a demon king whose body is a red candle beast. When the disciple asked him what happened, he didn't say anything. He just said that he had something important and could only tell the sect master. Yesuanhua pondered for a moment and said, "Let him come in." Since he reached the pill-forming stage of cultivation, he has also changed from his previous improper attitude, especially after being stimulated by Zuyun. I remember that when I taught him the 7 paths, I also told him not to practice, so as not to delay his business. Although he had selfish motives at the time, he later made it clear and there was no rift between master and disciple. Even, Yesuanhua had a vague idea of chasing Zuyun in his heart. However, his own cultivation talent is not strong, and he still majors in the 2 paths of alchemy formation. The fastest way to break through is to gain enlightenment on these 2 paths. Recently, he found an ancient book, and when he saw something he couldn't understand, he heard the report from the elders in the sect. You can't force yourself to become an immortal. That's what Zuyun said. Yesuanhua walked out of the hall and waited for a moment when he saw a young man with a demonic aura and dressed in red walking towards him with a smile on his face. I've met Master. Xiaohuo called Zuyun his master, and when he saw Yesuanhua, he naturally treated him as his master. After shouting, he greeted him directly and even bowed down Yingying, which shocked Yesuanhua. This fellow Taoist, how come? Yesuanhua quickly stretched out his hand to support him, but he felt a strong force and couldn't help him up at all. Compared with Xiaohuo, his strength was not even the slightest difference. He could only watch helplessly as Xiaohuo knelt on the ground. Elder Jadan beside him was stunned. When did our sect master have a demon king level disciple? This momentum is stronger than myself. However, he was well versed in the golden mean and knew that the more danger there was, the more danger he had, so he resigned immediately, not daring to stay any longer. This was exactly what Xiaohuo wanted. After seeing no one around, he stood up and said, "Master, don't panic, the disciple's master is Zuyun." Good boy. Yasuanhua was dumbfounded. He was still in the stage of forming pills. It was only after Menghui left with Big Dog and the others that his life became a lot more boring. Only then did he come up with the idea of continuing to practice again, and he wanted to target Zuyun. Fortunately for you, you came just in time. Demon King Realm. It was an existence comparable to the nascent soul stage, and it was actually Zuyun's pet. What state is that kid in? Yasuanhua asked in a low voice, but he accepted it in his heart, thinking that Xiaohua would tell the truth so that he would give up the idea of chasing after him. Early stage of becoming a god. Xiaohua said truthfully. Yasuanhua suddenly smiled bitterly and seemed to be talking to himself. I told you, this kid is really a humming genius. Xiaohua sneered, not knowing what Yasuanhua meant. After the other party's expression returned to normal, Xiaohua said, Master, this disciple came here to tell you something, which is related to the demon refining tower. Hearing this, Yasuanhua was shocked and said quickly, what happened to the demon refining tower? Master, Xiaohua also became serious and said, Master, you should know that the demon refining tower is a magic weapon refined in the Mahayana stage of the spiritual world. Its grade is higher than our imagination. And this person, in fact, he practiced evil skills and hid in the totem poles of the 12 great demon clans. Totem pole. Yasuanhua narrowed his eyes and said, didn't those demon tribes hand over all the totem poles to Zuyun? Moreover, didn't the totem pole only have 11 pieces? Xiaohua said quickly, Master, the totem pole is indeed at the Master's place, and the totem poles at the Dragon Demon Emperor's place were accidentally gathered together. Who would have thought that 12 totem poles gathered together, and a Mahayana appeared? A strong man. The disciple doesn't know the reason for this, but the Master had a fight with that strong man in Bifan realm. Hearing that Zuyun was in the Mahayana stage, Yasuanhua took a breath of cold air, his eyes shrank together, and he asked anxiously, how is the boy doing now? Isn't his life in danger? No, no, Xiaohua shook his head repeatedly and said, Master, don't worry about the Master. The Master used his strategy and the limitations of heaven to completely suppress the Mahayana old man. But he didn't expect that after the old man escaped back to the spirit world, he wanted to after taking back the demon refining tower and killing the Master, he returned to the East Mortal realm. The disciple also followed him, originally intending to kill him in the East Mortal realm, but the demon soul was not as good as the opponent's soul. Let him run away. Yasuanhua was stunned. In the Mahayana stage, this is a state that he can't even imagine. Originally, when he reached the nascent soul stage, he thought he could burn high-quality incense. Result. Not only did he fight Mahayana himself, but his pet also dared to chase him back to the mortal world. Master, Xiaohua knew that Yasuanhua was frightened by him, so he hurriedly said, Master has specially ordered that if you return to the East Mortal realm, you will come to see Master and be sure to guard the demon refining tower. Disciple, come, this is just a message to the Master, and I also hope that the Master can inform the other sect Yuanying monks so that they can jointly kill him in the lower realm. Otherwise, not only the Master's life will be in danger in the future, but also the mortal world and the spiritual world. All lives will be destroyed. Yasuanhua came back to his senses and said with a wry smile, I can contact other sects, but the question is where can we find the Mahayana period? Xiaohua smiled slightly and said, Master, if my disciple's guess is correct, he must have gone to Chuzhu. He has been in the totem pole all this time. I'm afraid he doesn't even know that the demon refining tower has changed owners many times and is hidden here. Got it? Good. Yasuanhua clapped his hands and said with joy in his eyes, then I will notify all the demon kings and Yuanying in the mortal world to gather at the former site of the 10,000 demon sect in Chuzhu. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1073. The East Fan Realm is peaceful. In order to exchange what they have and make it easier to pass messages, Yesuanhua personally created a sound transmission array. This can be a collection of his lifelong learning. Several major sects have array plates, through which messages can be transmitted. However, the farther away, the longer it takes to transmit messages, and at the same time, it will consume a lot of spirit stones. Fortunately, the East Fan realm is peaceful and resources will not be consumed for no reason. It has only been a few years, and the changes have been seen by all cultivators, making them cherish such time even more. Once the news came out, a few days later, countless powerful people in the East Fan realm began to gather towards the Yao realm. In order to avoid being discovered by Yao Fuzong in advance, they chose to gather at the Silver Sword sect on the side of the 10,000 mountains. Since all the Jindan stage cultivators left the Silver Sword sect, and the Silver Sword demon sect in Yusha realm was completely destroyed, it has become a low-level sect in Chuzhu and no one cares about it. The gathering place is close to the ruins of the 10,000 demon sect and relatively safe. There are no nascent soul cultivators in the Seven Stars sect, only Xiaohuo takes Yesuanhua there. The Eastern Mortal realm is about to change. But this time, they are fighting against foreign enemies together. In the Spirit realm, since the Ascension platform was destroyed, the heaven beyond heaven fell to the ground, and the five elements wanderer died tragically. The other sects and the demon races have suffered heavy losses and almost all of them have closed off to recuperate. And because of Zuyun, the spiritual realm passages of the four mortal realms were successfully opened, so many unfamiliar cultivators appeared in the spirit realm. In the heaven beyond heaven, the five elements sect realm, or the 9 netherworlds, many cultivators who are full of yearning and reverence, or crazy, appeared. The strongest of these cultivators is only at the peak of the late nascent soul stage, and the weakest is even at the Jindan stage. For a time, the lifeless spirit realm began to flourish. There are also some cultivators who have cultivated to the extreme of the nascent soul stage. After arriving in the spirit world, they directly triggered a small heavenly tribulation because of the extremely heavy spiritual pressure and enlightenment. The heavenly tribulation of the nascent soul stage breaking through the God transformation stage is called a small heavenly tribulation. Once the news that several nascent soul stage cultivators have safely transformed into gods came out, these cultivators who have just come from the mortal world were even more motivated to open up the immortal path. At this time, the spirit world is basically free of danger, and there is actually a feeling of a lot of work to be done. In addition, on the side of the demon clan, most of them appeared in the outer heaven. The inherited instinct of blood allows them to find their ancestral land and join them. Similarly, among them, there are demon kings who successfully triggered demon tribulation and became demon saints with the help of their clansmen. In the entire spirit world, almost all the sects and forces, or the demon clan, have a gap in the realm of cultivation. For example, the sect family forces, above the nascent soul, only have the tribulation stage. But after that great change, the cultivators in the tribulation period simply closed their doors to deal with the final great tribulation of flying immortals. Similarly, the demon race was similar, concentrating on cultivation and cultivating the demon saint realm to the extreme. Who could have thought that the cultivators who had just come up from the mortal world also quickly gained a foothold in the spiritual world because of this? In a short period of time, various sects with different names emerged like mushrooms after rain and began to recruit disciples. In the spiritual world, there are still many low-level cultivators who were born here. They are not favored by the big sects, but have become the hotcakes that these mortal sects are scrambling for. As for the Five Elements section, after the death of the Five Elements Sanren, no one dared to show up. Zuyun didn't know all this. At this time, he was wandering in the world of the universe. After flying over the volcano where the great universe instrument Immortal was, he began to walk. The chaos force plus the longevity tactic made the speed very fast, but he also enjoyed the scenery of the world of the universe. Full of vitality, he saw many newly born spiritual medicines, which made him feel happy. Xianxia is right, this world has changed. Perhaps, it is really the totem pole that has changed. Destiny, this is destiny. Zuyun does not know what the world outside the body can do to the cultivators themselves, but he heard from the formation fairy that the immortal emperor was also troubled by refining a world outside the body, which shows that there will be great benefits after refining it. Maybe, my realm is low and I haven't reached this level yet. Zuyun did not regret it, but smiled easily. He didn't know much about the fairy world, but he knew more than all the cultivators in the lower world combined. Because of this, he wanted to prove his way and ascend. In this way, Zuyun did not stop until all the chaotic power in his body was almost exhausted. He found that he actually found a very familiar gully in front of him. Isn't this the place in the south of the original great universe world where I practiced the self-destruct array? Zuyun walked to the edge of the pit with a heart full of surprise. Looking at this familiar scene, he was extremely sure in his heart. Strange, I was clearly heading in one direction. Although I occasionally walked casually, I didn't deliberately walk back. Zuyun couldn't help but feel a little doubtful. After thinking about it, he decided to go to the lake to take a look. If it was really a pit caused by himself, it means that the great universe world, may be a world connected from beginning to end. But at this time, the chaos power was almost exhausted. Although Zuyun was not in a hurry, he didn't want to waste time like this. He thought about it, took out a porcelain bottle containing elixirs from the ring, threw it into the bottom of the pit, and confirmed again and again that the porcelain bottle was not broken. Then he moved his mind and left the great universe world. First restore the chaos power of a lotus heart. Sitting at the edge of the void, Zuyun glanced at the bedroom window again, which was still closed. He retracted his eyes angrily and concentrated on refining his qi. After a long time, a lotus heart lit up, and Zuyun couldn't wait to get up and enter the world of the universe again. But this time, he went to the lake first and confirmed that the ancestral tree and the holy mountain were undoubtedly there before heading south. Not long after, he arrived at the pit, where his soul came, and there was a porcelain vase lying quietly at the bottom of the pit. His breath hitched. It's true, it turns out to be true, the world of the universe is not boundless, but a world connected from end to end and connected in all directions. Zuyun's eyes suddenly opened wide, which simply subverted his cognition. For a long time, he not only listened to what others said, but also read countless books, all of which said that the sky was round and the earth was round. Could it be that the universe is different? But no one could explain it to Zuyun, so he could only keep this idea in his heart. But vaguely, he felt like he knew something. At this moment, a mysterious spiritual power suddenly flashed across the edge of the pit. Zuyun looked back and saw an inconspicuous Jingyuan grass spitting out human words. Master, why are you in such a hurry? It's the voice of the ancestral tree. Zuyun couldn't help but be stunned. Old Shu, why are you? Ha ha ha, the Jingyuan grass swayed left and right, but the hearty laughter of the ancestral tree sounded. This scene made Zuyun extremely difficult to accept, but the laughter stopped, and the ancestral tree untied Zuyun. Doubts. Master, I am the world tree. I can appear wherever the origin of the world goes. It's just that my realm is low and I can only transmit sounds. I see. Zuyun couldn't help but smile and said, however, this also requires the power of the source, right? The source is hard to come by. I'd better go to the lake and talk to you in person. As soon as he finished speaking, Zuyun flashed and teleported towards the lake. For more than 1,000 miles, Zuyun could not spend much time in this universe world without the restrictions of heaven. Master, I saw you coming earlier and left without even saying hello. Das Han and I thought something had happened. Previously, when he attached himself to the Jingyuan grass and talked to Zuyun, Ancestral Tree already knew that he was not in danger. Having learned from Yao Fuzong's mistakes, Zushu is still somewhat defensive. No, Zuyun said with a smile, it's just that I never went south, but ended up in the south, so I wanted to confirm whether the pothole I saw was the same pothole I made before. Zuyun said with a smile. Oh. Ancestral Tree was also startled and confused for a moment. His realm was only comparable to that of the nascent soul stage, and he was unable to perceive such a large universe with his original source. He understood what Zuyun meant, and he immediately began to think deeply. Master, what do you mean? This seemingly endless world actually has boundaries. It's just that over there is the starting point and over there is the end point. The ancestral tree lives a long time, and if you think about it carefully, you can understand the reason. Yes, the starting point is the end point, and it can also be the opposite direction. Zuyun couldn't help but think of a story he heard when he was a child. It was completely different, and his heart was touched for some reason. Could it be that this universe is round? I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1074. The beginning and the end are connected. Zuyun was deeply touched. Because he was practicing the 5 Elements Chaos Sutra. When he was in the foundation building period, the 5-color spiritual power was mutually generated and restrained, and finally formed a 5-color large disk in the Danshan. Isn't it the same? Zuyun had a vague understanding and said to the ancestor tree, Old tree, I'll go over there to take a look. He pointed to the west, more than 100 miles away, where the totem pole was. He didn't remember clearly whether the totem pole was also connected in a certain order. Do you want me to go with you? The ancestor tree was still a little worried. Although he controlled the origin of the universe world, his control was not enough. In fact, his understanding of the universe world was not as deep as Zuyun's. No, I'll go. Zuyun smiled slightly. The formation fairy told him that as long as the world tree was fine, he would not be in danger in this world. If I knew it at the beginning, I would definitely kill Yao Fuzong here. Be careful. The ancestor tree waved its branches, and his tone was a little heavy. Zuyun smiled and said goodbye to the ancestor tree, and then he rushed to a distance of more than 100 miles without stopping, and stood in front of the circle of totem poles. Rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, sheep, monkey, chicken, dog, pig. At that time, I only took out 11 totem poles in one breath. Then the dragon head pole flew from the void, but it happened to fly in this position. From this, it can be seen that this destiny must also follow the truth of heaven. Zuyun suddenly opened his eyes wide. The gray and dull totem pole had no vitality. Perhaps, if you want to find out where the destiny is, you have to find Yao Fuzong. Since he can use the power of destiny, he must know something about destiny. Then, when the 10,000 blood evil array on his body is removed, it's time to go to the eastern mortal realm. Zuyun narrowed his eyes, and made a decision in his heart. His figure flashed and returned to the immortal mansion. Master! A voice sounded, and Zuyun was ecstatic. It's Nujiao. You finally came out of retreat. Zuyun turned around and looked into Nujiao's eyes. Well, I saw the note you put in. Do you want me to help you break the evil formation in your body? Nujiao also knew that Zuyun was always calm, but he left a message for him, which obviously meant that he had encountered an urgent matter. Yes, only you can help me. My own divine eyes technique cannot see inside my body. Zuyun said helplessly. Nujiao blinked and asked, who said I can't see it? Huh. Zuyun raised his eyebrows, his face full of confusion. Master, a mirror, can't you just use a mirror? Ah! Zuyun exclaimed, slapped his head hard, and then said ecstatically, yes, why didn't I think of it? Nu Jiao smiled and said, Master, you are handsome, you don't need to dress up like us women, and you are a cultivator, so you naturally won't look in the mirror, it's natural that you can't remember. Zuyun laughed dumbly, what Nu Jiao said really made sense. But where can he find a mirror in this short time? To be honest, although Nu Jiao has practiced the Divine Eyes technique, it has not been long after all, and she cannot really use the immortal power. This Divine Eyes technique is also a loophole, and it is not based on the Breaking Void Spirit Eyes technique. Zuyun is also unsure. Otherwise, he would not have gone to find the Lin family ancestor first. At present, it seems possible to use a mirror to see himself. Nu Jiao, thank you so much. Zuyun was about to leave the immortal mansion, but was stopped by Nu Jiao. Master, don't be in a hurry to leave, I have a mirror here. As soon as the voice fell, the door opened, and it seemed that Zuyun was going to come in. Zuyun was overjoyed. He originally thought that he was in the White Tiger realm, and he had to go to the True Spirit realm to find a mirror, which was a long way. If it could be solved in the immortal mansion, it would be great. Zuyun stepped into the bedroom, and Nu Jiao took a mirror from a wooden shelf, and then put it on the desk. She laughed and got into the bed, obviously not wanting to disturb Zuyun. Zuyun also sat over, immersed in his mind, and immediately performed the Divine Eye technique. He saw the golden light in his pupils, and then he lowered his eyes slightly and looked into his lower abdomen. His eyes passed through his flesh and reached his body. A series of strange array patterns entangled in 3 colors, trembling, tightly clamped his 9 meridians. This is to restrict the movement of his chaotic power. It is still based on the word trapped, but this trapped is different from the previous trapped. But the great way is simple, and different paths lead to the same destination. I can use the chaotic power again. I can also break this 10,000 blood array with all kinds of changes. First unlock these 3 kinds of blood power, and then break them one by one. No matter how evil the 10,000 blood array is, it is just like this. Zuyun sneered in his heart and began to crack the array pattern. I don't know how long it took. Zuyun's chaotic power has been exhausted, but this evil array has only been broken by 1/10. Zuyun was not discouraged. He said directly to the bed, Nu Jiao, help open the window on that side. The bedroom has windows on all 4 sides. The side that Zuyun said, the window is empty. As soon as the window was opened, some chaotic power came in, but under Zuyun's chi training, it was all absorbed and refined, filling his lotus heart. When the 27 lotus hearts were full, Zuyun used the Divine Eye technique again. This cycle repeats. It took half a year. Pop! A crisp sound came from the body. The 10,000 blood evil formation was broken. Zuyun suddenly opened his eyes and laughed out loud. The bedroom was only that big, and laughter kept hitting Nu Jiao's ears. Congratulations, young master, for breaking the evil fairy's method. Nu Jiao frowned slightly, she was also frightened by Zuyun, and almost went crazy. In the past 6 months, she has not been idle, and has been comprehending the sword method. Fearing that it would affect Zuyun, she did not come out to practice. Nu Jiao, Zuyun saw that Nu Jiao was slightly dissatisfied, and smiled. If it was just breaking the 10,000 blood evil formation, it would not be a big deal. The key is that I have comprehended a deeper formation. That's right, Zuyun was so excited because of the gains. Otherwise, if he had just solved the troubles on his body, he would not be so out of control. Then congratulations again, young master. Nu Jiao's body was bent. This feeling of being interrupted in enlightenment was tantamount to killing parents in the fairy world. I should also congratulate you, Zuyun waved his hand, the bedroom door opened instantly, a formation pattern emerged, and then disappeared without a trace. Nujiao was stunned, then exclaimed, "Is the restriction lifted?" "Of course, otherwise, why would I bother you?" Nujiao blushed, knowing that Zuyun had understood her, and her dissatisfaction instantly dissipated. Compared to being trapped in the house, the open space outside is more beneficial to her cultivation. Moreover, as a saint of the Holy Demon clan, her talent is also unique. Jianshan. The sword and the sword are connected, and the sword intent and the sword pool above may help her go further. Young master's kindness, Nujiao has no way to repay it. Nujiao was touched and bowed down, which made Zuyun a little flustered. After all, she was the maid of the immortal emperor, and he dared not accept such a gift. It's okay, I also hope that you can prove the great way and find the magic eye and the natal magic weapon as soon as possible. Nujiao stood up, her eyes shining, and nodded. Okay, I should leave too. I've been here for more than half a year, and there are still many things to do in the outside world. More than half a month has passed in the outside world, plus the time in the southern Fan realm, a full month. Yao Fuzan can do a lot of things. He wants to deal with the western Fan realm as soon as possible, and then go to the eastern Fan realm. You practice well here, and you can ask Lao Shu if you have any questions. I'm leaving first. Zuyun smiled slightly and said goodbye to Nu Xiao. His figure reappeared in the White Tiger realm. Zuyun withdrew the formation, but his powerful Yuan Shen immediately sensed the overwhelming demonic energy around him. Huh. He frowned slightly. The demonic energy was not only numerous, but also chaotic. Could it be that the White Tiger City has not reunified the demon clan? He knew that once a habit is formed, it would be difficult to change it back. It is easy to change the country, but it is difficult to change one's nature. Even if a dog cannot change its nature, it may be that these demons cannot change their habit of oppressing humans. No, let's go to Behu City to see. Even if it really cannot be changed, at least we have to protect Master Tianhu. Zuyun has more important things to do and will not stay in Xifen realm for too long. Zuyun's mind moved, and he did not suppress his breath, and fled quickly towards Behu City. He ran more than 1,000 miles before, and now it takes more than 1,000 miles to return. But the closer he got to Behu City, the more Zuyun frowned. Because the demonic energy was more and heavier. Until he flew over Behu City and looked down. I saw that on the pilgrimage square, countless demon cultivators, either in their original form or in their human form, were kneeling in front of a huge statue. Very pious. Zuyun was shocked. A Behu City Lord left. Could it be that a new Behu City Lord appeared? Master Tianhu, is he going to become that kind of person? Thinking of this, his murderous intent was revealed, and on the Chaos Lotus, the 27 lotus hearts flashed with a light of gold and gray. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzhuan Xianxia. Chapter 1075. On the pilgrimage square, a demon king immediately sensed Zuyun's murderous intent. They all raised their heads and looked towards the sky. Such a sacred place, someone actually desecrated it? Unforgivable. But they saw that familiar figure before they even condensed their demon power. Zhu Xian, it's Zhu Xian who is here. Zhu Xian has come in person. It turns out that Zhu Xian is here. Who has violated the rules set by Zhu Xian? The demon kings began to make a noise. And those demon cultivators who were worshipping turned around and worshipped towards the sky. This time, even Zuyun was dumbfounded. How could these people worship him? Then, several demon lights flashed, and it turned out that those demon kings flew into the sky. Meet Zhu Xian. Almost at the same time, these demon kings bowed down to Zuyun in the air, extremely pious. Zuyun opened his mouth, but couldn't speak. A demon king spoke first, Zhu Xian, who broke the rules and asked you to come. Zhu Xian, no need to do anything, we will personally execute him. There was awe and anger in his words. Zhu Yun didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How could it become like this? He shook his head quickly and said, no, no, I just came to see you casually. But then killing. The Demon King wanted to say something, but was pulled by a Demon King behind him. The implication was that Zhu Xian's actions, how could we, the demon cultivators of the lower world, guess? Zhu Xian, we are abrupt. The Demon King also immediately came back to his senses and changed his tone, saying, you are here, the city lord must be very happy, let us go to inform the city lord and deputy city lord Shen. Shen Nan. Zhu Yun was surprised. Shen Nan actually became the deputy city lord of this White Tiger city? That's right, the Demon King said hurriedly, deputy city lord Shen is in Beihu city, cooperating with Tianhu city lord to govern Beihu city. In the past 6 months, everyone has known Zhu Xian's good intentions and the sinister intentions of the original city lord. What do you mean? Zhu Yun pointed to the pilgrimage square below, and when he found that the huge statue was himself, he was stunned again. The Demon King didn't understand, but smiled, and said, Zhu Xian made our demons and humans live in peace, and our minds are more stable, and it is twice as effective to practice with half the effort. And there are many demon kings of the same race who have gone to the spirit world. All this is done by Zhu Xian, and we naturally have to tell them in the whole tribe that if you have difficulties in cultivating immortals, don't forget Zhu Xian. Behind him, the Demon King said in unison again, if you have difficulties in cultivating immortals, don't forget Zhu Xian. Zhu Yun touched his nose, and seeing the respectful eyes of these people, he also had goosebumps in his heart for no reason. Let's go meet the 2 city lords. The city lord's mansion was destroyed, and Tianhu and Shen Nan rebuilt a mansion next to the passage to the spirit world. The mansion is not big, nor grand, but rather simple. Zhu Xian, we haven't seen you for half a year, and we miss you so much. Tianhu said with a smile, and there was also a look of admiration in his eyes. Shen Nan also smiled and said, Zhu Xian, you don't know that everyone in the world calls you Zhu Xian, and it's a bit out of place for us to call you Senior Zhu again. Fellow Daoist Shen, please don't mention it again. Last time I mentioned Senior Zhu, those palace guards almost tore me to pieces, saying that it would offend Zhu Xian. Tianhu's face was helpless. Zhu Yun was speechless, and the development of things seemed to be too smooth. However, when they arrived in the spirit world, knowing that they had been hunted by countless sects in the spirit world, they might change, right? Thinking about it, Zhu Yun was happy about the changes in the Western fan world. In his eyes, the human race and the demon race are actually the same. They are all struggling on the path to immortality, which is extremely difficult. In the end, they just want to achieve the great way, ascend to the immortal world, and gain eternal life. Since the goal is the same, why bother fighting? Like in the spirit world, this situation is not uncommon, but it will never be because of race. There is no way. Shen Nan spread his hands and said, who asked Zhu Xian to leave the recipe of the golden marrow pill? These demon kings are now trying their best to exchange for a golden marrow pill. Anyone who has not eaten it is embarrassed to break through the passage. The passage of the demon race is different from the main passage. There will be dangers in it, but not big. Basically, it can be passed. Zhu Yun was relieved after learning that Beihu City was safe and that the demonic energy that gathered was because all the demons were coming to Beihu City to pay homage. After staying for more than an hour, he got up and left. Tianhu and Shen Nan personally sent Zhu Yun to the city gate. But they never thought that the news of Zhu Yun's personal visit had spread throughout the city. The demon kings knew more and recognized Zhu Yun. And those demon cultivators with weaker realms all watched Zhu Yun leave with their eyes open, full of reverence and curiosity. It was not until Zhu Yun's figure could no longer be seen that four words resounded through the sky. Farewell, immortal Zhu. The true spirit realm, the main passage of the spirit world. Countless cultivators stood here quietly, and in the distance, many cultivators were rushing towards this place. They did not receive the news of Zhu Yun's personal visit, nor did they want to break through the passage of the spirit world. Instead, under the coordination of Elder Qin and other Yuanying masters, a huge statue was erected in this main passage. There is no doubt that the sculpture is Zhu Yun. The statue is smiling and lifelike. This is a huge spiritual stone, which took countless craftsmen and a full 6 months to carve. Today is the day to erect the statue. All the cultivators came here to admire Zhu Yun's demeanor. If you can't see the real person, you can see the statue. And the reason why it is placed at the entrance of the spiritual world passage is that Elder Qin and others hope that every cultivator who will go to the spiritual world will not forget Zhu Yun's great kindness. Their immortal path has become smooth because of Zhu Yun. In addition, there is a stone tablet next to the statue. On the inscription, there is a technique engraved. Breaking the Void Spirit Eye Technique. This technique was passed down by Zhu Xian. After successful cultivation, you can see through all the fog in the spiritual world passage and reach the spiritual world safely. This is the annotation before the technique. The Breaking the Void Spirit Eye technique also needs to be cultivated. The reason why it is also placed here for public viewing is the idea proposed by Shen Nan. The cultivators need to practice the Breaking the Void Spirit Eye technique in advance, so naturally, they have to come here, and they will also see Zhu Yun's statue, so that they can start practicing with gratitude. The immortal path is long, and there is no time for cultivating immortals. Shen Nan believed that this would make the later cultivators remember Zhu Xian all the time. At the same time, when they go to the spirit world, they will see Zhu Yun again. Let them remember Zhu Yun even when they go to the spirit world. In front of the statue, led by Elder Qin, more than 100 Yuanying stood quietly here. Elder Qin, the auspicious time has come. A Yuanying stepped forward and whispered. Elder Qin nodded slightly, and then stretched out his right hand to the countless low-level cultivators in front of him. Immediately, there was a dead silence. Everyone. Elder Qin's eyes were no longer turbid, revealing a gleam of light and supreme majesty. The road to immortality is bumpy, don't forget Zhu Xian. The 8 characters fell, and thousands of voices rose. The road to immortality is bumpy, don't forget Zhu Xian. The cultivators below almost all shouted. In the past 6 months, they have almost all eaten the pills made by Zhu Yun's pill formula. Those who can arrive in advance are naturally all cultivators in the Jindan period. The higher the realm, the closer they are to the front, and the louder they roar. On the day of the statue, I declare that this day of every year will be the day of celebrating the immortals. I hope that you can pass on the 8 characters of cultivating immortals and the day of celebrating the immortals. The predecessors must not forget, and the descendants must not forget. Never forget the grace of celebrating the immortals. The voice was higher again, this time, it was the later, the foundation building cultivators on the periphery. As for the chi refining stage, they were really limited in strength and did not have time to get here. Ha ha ha, good, good. Elder Qin laughed wildly and said, today, some of us old immortals will take the lead and go to the spirit world first, and will not stay to compete with you for resources. This immediately caused the cultivators below to laugh, and they all thought in their hearts, the Yuanying ancestors are not so easy to talk to. After Elder Qin's voice fell, several Yuanying late peaks also stood up. A total of 5. They are all at the peak of the late nascent soul stage, the strongest in the mortal world who they have only heard of but never seen. Let's go ahead, I wish you all a smooth path to immortality. Senior, don't forget Zhu Xian. In the crowd, several people suddenly shouted with their throats, gathering all their spiritual power and shouting. No, no. Elder Qin laughed and walked towards the light door of the passage. But at this moment, a figure suddenly arrived. Elder Qin, wait for me. When everyone heard the voice and looked over, their faces changed, and then they all knelt down. Meet Zhu Xian. Now, even the more than 100 nascent souls before the statue all knelt down on the ground. Zhu Yun touched his nose and smiled bitterly. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1076. The impassioned voice from before had actually reached his ears long ago. He called Elder Qin to stop. Actually, he just wanted to have someone with him. By the way, he could tell him about the situation in the spirit world. But who would have thought that Elder Qin, who was about to step into the light gate with half his foot, also retracted abruptly and knelt down with a group of juniors. Everyone get up. Zhu Yun said helplessly, mortals kneel to heaven and kneel to their parents. We monks will go against heaven and end our worldly ties. Stop kneeling casually. He didn't like this etiquette very much. Knees are the hardest part of a person, how can they be so easily softened? Apart from his parents, he has only knelt down to mentors like Yesuanhua. After Zhu Xian spoke, these monks naturally couldn't kneel anymore. After seeing them all get up, Zhu Yun said to Elder Qin and others, what are you doing? This statue is twice as big as the one in White Tiger City and even more exquisite. Zhu Xian is our human race's benefactor, so we naturally want future generations to pay homage to Zhu Xian. Elder Qin said, neither humble nor arrogant. Zhu Yun had no choice but to wave his hands and said, are you going to the spirit world? Has Shen Nan brought you the void-breaking spiritual eye technique? Bring it, bring it. We specially engraved it here for future generations to see. Elder Qin pointed at the stone tablet and said. Zhu Yun was speechless again. He was not used to this feeling of worshipping him as a god. Let's go. If you have anything to say it in the passage. Zhu Yun took the lead and stepped into the light gate. When Elder Qin heard this, Zhu Yun had something to do with him. He immediately did not dare to neglect, waved his hand, and led 5 other people into the light door. The endless fog as far as the eye can see is exactly the same as the main channel of the spiritual world that Zhu Yun walked through. However, he wanted to go directly to the East Mortal realm and would be separated from everyone later. After going to the spirit world, you all changed from chicken heads to phoenix tails. You must think twice before acting. In the spirit world, I am only in the stage of becoming a god. In addition, the spiritual power in the spirit world is more intense. You first, when the time comes, don't pay attention to the pressure of the spiritual energy. If nothing else, the teleportation distance will be shortened. After Zhu Yun gave instructions in detail, they also reached the separate road section. You guys go, all the way to the west, use the void-breaking spirit eye technique well, and you can go straight to the spirit world. Zhu Yun clasped his fists. In this passage, the restrictions of heaven were not as strong as in the mortal world. All the nascent souls could really feel Zhu Yun's aura. He is countless times stronger than them. The respect in my heart is even greater. Won't Zhu Xian go to the spirit world? Elder Qin and others were shocked. Every banquet in the world must come to an end. Zhu Yun smiled slightly and said, there are still disasters in the East Mortal realm. I'll go take a look. See you later. After saying that, Zhu Yun stepped into the east direction without looking back and walked quickly. After parting ways, Elder Qin and the other 6 people felt reluctant to part with each other, but they admired Zhu Yun even more in their hearts. Wish Xian, have a safe journey. Hearing the sincere farewell from behind, Zhu Yun went straight to the east entrance with a smile on his face. Stepping through the entrance, he suddenly found himself in a sea. Zuyun took a deep breath as the salty and humid sea breeze hit his face. Dongfeng realm, I'm back. The blue sea surface is undulating with waves, and under the bright sun, it looks like the scales of 1,000 true dragons. Zuyun figured out the direction for a while and flew towards the northwest. He wants to go to Dongsheng realm first to see his master, Yesuanhua. But he didn't know that at this time, Yesuanhua and Xiaohuo were gathering in Chuzhu, Yao realm, with all the Yuanying stages in the East Mortal realm. In the Silver Sword sect, all the Silver Sword female cultivators were trembling. I thought that these nascent soul masters were here to have fun, after all, their Silver Sword sect was famous. But who would have thought that there were many graceful female cultivators among them, which made them even more frightened. Fortunately, these powerful nascent souls did not care about these young monks. They just trapped them to prevent the news from leaking out and stopped interfering with them. At this time, in the main hall of Silver Sword sect, all the Yuanying stages gathered here, waiting for the news. Sect Master Luo, tell me if it can be done this time. The one who spoke was Nangong Yin. He has been staying in the East Mortal realm and has no plans to go to the spiritual world for the time being. It's definitely possible. Didn't the Fire Demon King say that Zuyun beat that man away in the Nan Mortal realm? Luo Yanran's eyes revealed confidence. Of course, what the other mortal realms can do, they can also do in the Eastern Mortal realm. Otherwise, if we meet in the spiritual world in the future, wouldn't they be laughed at because they are not good enough in the Eastern Mortal realm? As for the Fire Demon King in his mouth, he is naturally Xiaohuo. While speaking, all the monks in the hall looked at Yesuanhua. No one looked down upon him just because he was in the Dan formation stage. After all, this is Zuyun's master. Fellow Daoist, yeah, Luo Yanran said with cupped hands, when the war is about to begin, you and the Fire Demon King will stay here. Yesuanhua knew that this was the most correct decision for Luo Yanran. Although there was a surge of pride in his heart, he could only agree, but he also said, Sect Master Luo, Xiaohuo does not need to stay. The Silver Sword sect, that Mahayana, I don't even know this place. It's better to prevent things from happening, Nangongyin said, fellow Daoist, yeah, if you have an accident, we won't be able to deal with Zuyun, let alone go to the spirit world to see Zuyun in front of us. That's right, another person stood up and smiled at Yesuanhua, if fellow Daoist Ye was in the nascent soul stage, naturally we wouldn't say this, let alone what means we would have in the Mahayana stage, just in case. I couldn't take care of it, and the aftermath of the spiritual power rushed here and hurt Daoist Ye, and I'm afraid it's our fault too. Yesuanhua sighed, thought for a moment, and then said to Xiaohuo, when you fight against that powerful man, share everything you know with a few Taoists and try to kill that person directly in the 10,000 demons section. In the entire Eastern Mortal realm, Yesuanhua is the only one among those who are in the nascent soul stage who dares to call them Taoist friends. Okay, Xiaohuo nodded and said, Master, please be careful in everything. I will set up a large formation here when I arrive, so it won't affect me. Seeing what Yesuanhua said, everyone began to prepare for the final battle, and no one paid any attention to Yesuanhua. Yesuanhua was also very happy and walked out of the main hall, walking back and forth in the Silver Sword sect, which was very pleasant. He was so open-minded that, not even because of Zuyun, he might end up in Dongsheng realm and carry forward the 7-star sect. After a long time, a figure flew over quickly and broke into the hall. Fellow Taoists, a strange monk has come to 10,000 Demons Mountain. He is very powerful and is furious at the top of the mountain. Everyone stood up immediately, their eyes showing determination. 10,000 Monsters Mountain is undoubtedly that Yao Fuzong. Xiaohuo said in a deep voice, everyone, Yao Fuzong definitely didn't expect that you would all work together to kill him. From what I see, it's better for me to fight him first, and then you all surround him first, and then use various magical powers to kill him. Nangongyan laughed loudly and said loudly, "The words of the Fire Demon King are just as I thought. He is a great power in the spiritual world, but in this mortal world, we are the real masters." An old man in black robe sneered sinisterly, "How wonderful it is to have friends come from far away. He is the new sect leader of the devouring demon sect, and has just passed the nascent soul stage." Luo Yanran also shouted sweetly, "Ya Luo demon sect obeys the order, the battle is about to begin. Everyone, this demon king is leaving." The small fire turned into a blaze and headed straight for the 10,000 Monsters Mountain. At this time, Yao Fuzong has finished venting his anger, and only half of the entire 10,000 Monsters Mountain is left. He never expected that the demon refining tower that he placed here to refine the demon saints' good thoughts and finally merge them into one and become the real tower spirit would disappear. Who stole my demon refining tower?" Yao Fuzong roared, and his voice came out far away. "Damn it, it must have something to do with that Zuyun, otherwise, why would he try every possible means to kill me? By the way, there is also his strange world outside his body. Could it be my demon refining tower? It's extremely possible. Otherwise, how could he collect all 12 totem poles? He must have entered the 9th floor of the demon refining tower and met the tower spirit." Yao Fuzong's breathing was rapid and he couldn't stop even though he wanted to. He wished he could go to the Nanfan realm and fight Zuyun to the death. The demon refining tower is his only hope for immortality. Yao Fuzong practiced the 10,000 demons and evil art. If the demon refining tower had not shielded his demonic aura, the catastrophe would have wiped him out. And the most critical step is that he still needs the demon refining tower to resist the power of the heavenly tribulation. But now, the demon refining tower is gone, and there is no hope for him to ascend to immortality. In such anger, Yao Fuzong didn't think much at all. He gathered the power of all demons and punched it again. Boom! The sky collapsed and the earth shattered, 10,000 Monster Mountain. Total destruction. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1077. With the mighty momentum, centered on 10,000 Monsters Mountain, the arrogant power of 10,000 monsters surged out crazily. The wind roared, thousands of trees were destroyed, and all the grass was turned into mud. In Yao Fuzong's rage, the eastern mortal realm seemed to be attacked by a plague, with no life left at all. And this momentum also spread to the distance and was sensed by Xiaohuo. Still going crazy? He, when your power of all monsters is used up, I have almost no loss at all. Xiaohuo was delighted. After meeting these nascent souls, he also knew that there were basically no monsters living near 10,000 Monster Mountain. Since the barriers of Dongsheng Realm, Yusha Realm, and Yao Realm have been removed, the three realms have become smooth and the monsters with a little enlightened intelligence have all gone to Dongsheng Realm. Of course, there are still some left in the 100,000 mountains. Anyway, there are no monsters here. As a result, over the years, in Chuzhu, there have been fewer people practicing the 10,000 demons art. Naturally, no one will become a monster because they cannot master the power of the 10,000 demons. Furthermore, because of Zuyun's relationship, low-level monks will also try their best to go to the spiritual world to practice. The entire East Mortal Realm is also peaceful. Therefore, Yao Fuzong did not get any useful information along the way, and most of what he saw were ordinary people. More than 100 miles is not too far for Xiaohuo, and he is even very familiar with this place in Chuzhu. Although before meeting Zuyun, he had been practicing in the volcano in Chenan. But the entire Chuzhu was connected with the earth and fire, and he could already feel that something was ready to move in his body. He can use all the fire of Chuzhu. Not long after, against the frenzied surge of 10,000 monsters' power, the small fire turned into a ball of fire and appeared at the bottom of 10,000 Monsters Mountain. But at this time, it was full of dust. Wherever the fire struck, a cloud of dust and smoke rose up, covering the sky and the sun, like a sandstorm. Demon King Realm. Yao Fuzong regained his composure for a moment, and the madness in his eyes receded in an instant. But when he felt something familiar from the fire, he couldn't help but get furious. What a red candle beast, how dare you find this place? He recognized Xiao Huo and immediately punched Xiao Huo. Ha ha ha, Yao Fuzong, your 10,000 demons fist wants to deal with me in the East Mortal Realm, you're not even interested. Xiao Huo laughed wildly, and the fire suddenly rose, once again raising the dust that the 10,000 monsters mountain had turned into. The sky is dark again. This move is to provide cover for the nascent soul cultivator coming from behind. Xiaohuo also knew that it was impossible to kill Yao Fuzong by himself. Xiaohuo naturally wouldn't think he could do something that even his master couldn't do. Therefore, in addition to trying to blind Yao Fuzong's perception as much as possible, he also wanted to distract him. I believe that it is not that easy for Yao Fuzong to kill him. It's just a red candle beast. I don't know how many demon pills I refined back then. Yao Fuzong put away his expression and stared at the outline of the fireball with squinted eyes. The dust actually affected his vision. But not only did he have spiritual consciousness to use, the fire was also too conspicuous in the dust. A monster is a monster, this intelligence. Yao Fuzong had extraordinary experience. When he first came to the mortal world, he was attacked by a red candle beast and suffered some injuries. Now in a head-on battle, he is not afraid at all. In other words, when faced with monsters, he didn't know what to fear. You have never seen the true power of the 10,000 demons and evil laws. A cruel smile appeared on Yao Fuzong's face. Seeing that Xiao Huo did not dare to attack him head-on, it was exactly what he wanted and he began to mutter something. Xiao Huo thought that Yao Fuzong was still injured, or that he did not dare to attack in this dust, and he was secretly happy in his heart. In this way, the two spent time with each other, but in the end it was Xiao Huo who suffered the big loss. No matter how strong he is evenly matched with Yao Fuzong under the law of heaven. But his fighting experience is more than 1.5 points behind Yao Fuzong. A moment later, Yao Fuzong had finished reciting the magic formula. G, look at how powerful my 10,000 demons evil technique is. As he laughed wildly, Yao Fuzong's face showed a triumphant expression. He stretched out his hand and waved it, and an extremely evil aura instantly condensed into a circle of light, and it was pulled towards Xiao Huo's neck. Feeling the power coming from above, Xiao Huo felt an extremely dangerous feeling in his heart. Can't get caught. This was the only thought in his mind. The small fire immediately transformed into its true form, gathering demonic power and setting off thousands of flames. In an instant, the endless dust was melted by the high temperature and condensed into transparent crystals like glass. Under the sunlight, the crystals are colorful and particularly dazzling. But the aperture was not affected in any way and was still chasing Xiao Huo. Even Xiao Huo's almost full blow could not slow down the aperture at all. No, what kind of method is this? Xiao Huo was horrified. He only felt that danger was coming, and he wanted to escape even more. But it can fly out of thin air, and the aperture is like an erosion of bones, chasing after it. In desperation, Xiao Huo fell to the ground. Seeing a crack in the ground spewing lava, he immediately got in. GGG, do you think you can escape and ascend to heaven if you enter this earth vein fire? Yao Fuzong smiled ferociously, just with the thought, the aperture also penetrated. It is true that his realm is limited by heaven. But how can this immortal world's magic be broken by his demon cultivator from the lower world? For countless years, Yao Fuzong has relied on this move to shine in the outer world. He can catch any monster he wants with ease. As long as the strength is weaker than him, there is no way to escape this aperture. The reason why his evil skills are only one step away from becoming a great achievement is because he relied on the aperture to capture countless demon saints alive, and finally took the demon pills alive to practice his own evil skills of 10,000 demons. But Wan Yao Xiegong also has drawbacks. Even if you are born as a human, you still have a demonic aura in your body. If you use this to survive the tribulation, you will be recognized by the heavens and your soul will definitely be blasted away. Therefore, Yao Fuzong consulted countless classics and finally found a magic weapon that suited him. Demon Refining Tower. It took countless years and countless costs to collect countless fairy materials from the fairy world, and built the Demon Refining Tower according to the methods in the fairy books. This is a musical score from the fairy world. However, although it was created, the weapon Immortal was a problem. Because this is a lower realm, let alone Yao Fuzong's inability to find a suitable choice for a weapon Immortal, even if there is a suitable one, he cannot refine it. So he took the next step and refined the Demon Saint into it to become a weapon spirit. But because of the Immortal weapon Atlas, refining the spirit weapon was not that smooth. It was not as simple as an ordinary spiritual weapon. That's why Yao Fuzong used the destiny of the demon clan to separate his soul. After various complicated operations, the demon refining tower needs to be cultivated in the East Mortal realm for countless years before it can be successful. This took all his efforts, but now it was all in vain. In anger, he was as mad as a rock, and when he saw Xiao Huo coming to his door, he naturally didn't care. If he could, he would like to destroy the entire Dongfeng realm. When Xiao Huo saw that the aperture was still chasing him, he was immediately horrified. Fortunately, after entering the earth vein fire, he was like a fish in water. With his unique instinct, he swam towards the more generous earth vein fire. When the demon refining tower was placed here, this earth vein, I have been there countless times. Yao Fuzong moved his soul, and wherever his spiritual consciousness reached, the small fire had nowhere to hide. He locked Xiao Huo tightly, and coupled with the nature of evil techniques such as aperture, no matter where he escaped, Yao Fuzong was controlling every move. Similarly, Xiao Huo has been practicing for a long time in the time of the universe. All the demon power comes from the transformation of chaos power, and the demon soul is also quite powerful. Although not as good as Yao Fuzong, he can still escape the pursuit of aperture. He could even feel that Yao Fuzong was standing on the ground, not moving an inch. I don't know what the purpose of this aperture is. At least you can't catch up with me now. Then I can fight hard and seriously injure him first. When those nascent souls come over, what else can he do to me? Xiao Huo waited for a moment and made a decision in his heart, but in order to numb the opponent's mind, he still swam towards the deeper earth veins. Half an hour later, Xiao Huo deliberately restrained his momentum, which made Yao Fuzong overjoyed. He even said to himself with a ferocious look on his face, "GGG, I haven't refined the red candle beast's demon elixir for a long time. Okay, I have to think about it this time." He used his soul to control the aperture to accelerate towards Xiao Huo. Unexpectedly, Xiao Huo also moved at this time. Driven by his demon power, the ground shook, thousands of cracks spewed out countless hot magma, and Yao Fuzong was swallowed up in it instantly. But Xiao Huo also knew that the magma could not hurt Yao Fuzong at all, and this was just a move by him to disrupt Yao Fuzong's mind. Go to hell. Burn flowers and leaves. In the magma, all the fire spiritual power began to condense and condensed towards Yao Fuzong. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1078. No, this red candle beast is so strong. With this blow, Xiao Huo poured out all his demonic power, igniting all the earth's fire within 100 miles and blasting towards Yao Fuzong. He just heard him exclaim, and it was too late to react. All his attention was either locked on Xiao Huo or controlling the aperture. How could he know that Xiao Huo's counterattack was so strong? Immediately, the fire of the earth's veins engulfed him. Yao Fuzong was furious, and countless countermeasures flashed through his mind. In the end, he chose the method that would hurt both sides, but it was the method that could truly save his life. The evil magic of all demons turns into demons. In an instant, Yao Fuzong's soul left his body, rushed through the fire, and ran towards Xiao Huo. His physical body became an ownerless corpse, but his spirit, which looked like a demon but was not human, rushed straight into Xiao Huo's eyebrows. Bang! The powerful impact, with unparalleled momentum, immediately fell into the cracks in the ground with a small fire. An hour later. Just now I felt the huge fire spirit power. The earth vein fire within 100 miles radius was extremely active. It might be the fire demon king burning the demon soul, so I desperately killed Yao Fuzong. Nangongyan's face was solemn, and his eyes were full of emotion. Everyone sighed and looked at the lifeless body of Yao Fuzong. On the ground, there remained newly condensed volcanic black rocks, which were formed after the magma cooled. Based on their experience, the scene at this time should be Xiao Huo sacrificing his life and killing Yao Fuzong in one fell swoop. Luo Yanran has already explored Yao Fuzong's body, and there are traces of burns all over his body. Although the physical body in the Mahayana stage cannot be damaged by the fire of the mortal world, the Zi mansion is as empty as the vast starry sky. But it doesn't have any power at all. They are the ones who made this judgment. The master of the fire demon king is Zuyun. Luo Yanran stood up and said quietly. Yes, Zuyun. Some nascent soul monks who had interacted with Zuyun also had expressions of sadness. Needless to say, Zuyun's character is such that even his pet animals can perform such righteous deeds for the mortal world. What he said is right, the demon race and the human race. They are all cultivators and have their own Taoist aspirations. The fire demon king's true form is the red candle beast. I think there needs to be a statue of the red candle beast next to Zuyun's statue. Nangongyan said. I agree, Luo Yanran nodded and said, I also propose that the red candle beast be the guardian beast of our mortal world. Yes, the old man in black robe, who was the newly promoted master of the devouring demon sect, said, one person and one demon have made such a great contribution to our mortal world and should be respected by thousands of people. Not only in our world of cultivating immortals, this should also be the case among mortals. In fact, they can all enter the spiritual world channel and pursue a farther path to immortality. But under the influence of Zuyun, they plan to let the East mortal realm recover before going to search for immortals. It's a good thing that this is the case, otherwise the East mortal realm would be in ruins again. Let's have a moment of silence. Everyone stood in a row silently, and more than 100 nascent soul stagers lowered their heads slightly, but they were facing the direction of Yao Fuzong's body, and all they thought about was Xiao Huo. That righteous red candle beast. Until, a surprised voice sounded. You, what are you doing? Hey, I seem to hear Zuyun's voice. Among the people present, Luo Yanran was the most familiar with Zuyun, and she couldn't help but whisper. But everyone was in the nascent soul stage, so they didn't suppress it deliberately, so it naturally fell into everyone's ears. Sect Master Luo, did you hear it too? It seems that I heard it too. Nangongyan was also stunned. If Luo Yanran hadn't mentioned Zuyun, he wouldn't have remembered that it was Zuyun's voice. It was more likely that he thought he was hearing hallucinations. The rest of the people suddenly came to their senses and looked up. Zuyun, it's Zuyun who's back. Suddenly, screams of exclamation erupted from the dead and silent charred land. Luo Yanran looked up and was stunned. Zuyun frowned, but then relaxed. Because he also saw Yao Fuzong's body, and his soul could sense that Yao Fuzong could not die anymore. Of course, the premise is that Yao Fuzong did not leave an incarnation elsewhere. But Zuyun was extremely convinced of this. Yao Fuzong had been in a bad situation since he appeared in the 12 totem pole, and during the battle with him, he had never noticed any strange changes in Yao Fuzong. So, is Yao Fuzong dead? Did you kill him? Zhu Yun fell down, and he could see that Wanyao Mountain was gone, and Yao Fuzong died here again. Extremely confirmed. The only suspicion is that with Yao Fuzong's cunning skills, even if he is restricted by the law of heaven, he cannot be killed by these people so easily. The key is, they don't know Yao Fuzong either. Zhu Yun, Luo Yanran took a step forward and said with a bitter smile, "It was your pet who found this place and died together with Yao Fuzong." Zhu Yun's brows jumped, thinking that these people had seen it with his own eyes, and his heart couldn't help but twitch. Xiao Huo is dead. He choked up and couldn't believe it. Xiao Huo obviously went to the spirit world, but why did he end up dying in the East Mortal realm after fighting with Yao Fuzong? Exactly, Nangongyan murmured, "We have agreed with the Fire Demon King that he will sneak attack Yao Fuzong to attract his attention, and then we will work together to surround him." The Fire Demon King said you and Yao Fuzong used this method to fight in other mortal realms, but who would have thought? Zhu Yun fell silent and fell to the ground. Feng Tian. He called out Feng Tianyan. Flames rose from his hands. Owner. The flame turned into a human form, and then lowered his head. He and Xiao Huo were strangers to each other. He thought they were also in the volcano on the southern border of Chu. Burn Yao Fuzong's body, crush the bones and spread the ashes. Zhu Yun almost gritted his teeth and said this. Xiao Huo obviously went to the spirit world, and finally died in the East Mortal realm, and died together with Yao Fuzong. Zhu Yun didn't speak anymore, feeling lost in his heart. He didn't communicate much with Xiao Huo. In the world of the universe, he was the monster with the least sense of existence. Even Zhao Kamang is familiar to him. However, Xiao Huo, who had the least sense of existence, did something he would never forget. Xiao Huo, let's go. After Fen Tianyan burned Yao Fuzong's body, a pile of white ash was left behind. Zhu Yun stepped forward, grabbed a handful and sprinkled it directly into the sky. Fire Demon King, let's go. All the nascent souls shouted in unison. Silver Sword Sect, Main Hall. The moment Yesuan Hua saw Zhu Yun, he was extremely happy. But he also keenly noticed that a group of people had sad expressions on their faces, and quickly shut up. Master. Zhu Yun stepped forward, forced a smile, and then held his hands in greeting. Yesuan Hua was a little afraid to agree. And he finally discovered that Xiao Hua was missing. Where is the Fire Demon King? He subconsciously uttered 4 words. Dead, Zhu Yun said expressionlessly. Dead, dead. Yesuan Hua opened his mouth, his mind was full of that stern young man's face, but he respectfully called him master. Why did you die? Yesuan Hua didn't believe it at all and cried out. It is true that he has seen too many births, old age, sickness, and death, but Xiao Huo is the Demon King. It is also a first-class existence in this mortal world. Even if Yao Fuzong is in the Mahayana stage, he cannot defeat him, but with so many Yuanying stages accompanying him, it should be okay not to escape unscathed, but to save his life, right? I'm late, Zhu Yun shook his head and sighed, well done to Xiao Huo, but I took too long, otherwise he wouldn't have died. In order to break through the evil formation of 10,000 bloods, he stayed in the great universe for half a year, and even became interested in seeing how big the great universe was. Even if he comes out half a day early, he will not lose a partner. This made Zhu Yun learn a very profound lesson. It's not your fault, Yesuan Hua smiled bitterly, it's my fault for bringing him here. What he didn't accept the most was that a group of nascent souls asked Xiao Huo to stay. If they stay, even if these Yuanying cannot kill Yuanying, they can still hold on until Zhu Yun arrives, right? Master, Zhu Yun raised his head and said, I don't blame you. Yao Fuzong was the one I wanted to kill. He kept this in mind. All I can say is that I didn't arrive in time. He saw that Yesuanhua was unstable and quickly comforted him. Yesuanhua went through a lot, his sect was destroyed, and his son rebelled. Although Yezi's good intentions were later confirmed, at least that period of his mental journey would not change. Yesuanhua lowered his head and responded softly. Zhu Yunqiang cheered up, then looked at everyone and said, "Everyone, after finally returning from the spirit world, I will also tell you about the spirit world. When I go to the spirit world, I will be prepared." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1079. Lin Family Ancestral Land, Holy Lake. Lin Xiaoqi and Li Emo were very happy to see Zhu Yun, but seeing a hint of sadness between his eyebrows, they did not dare to show it too much. Zhu Yun exchanged a few words and said to Li Emo, "Brother Li, you are still slow in cultivation at this level." Li Emo smiled bitterly, "Brother Zhu, there is a huge difference between you and me. No matter how much I practice, I can't catch up with your speed of practicing thousands of miles a day." Zhu Yun knew his talent. He didn't have the time flow difference of Daoliuli mirror. He was much worse than Li Emo. Of course, the Liwo curse that Li Emo practiced came from Liwo Immortal Venerable. He followed the way of the extreme Yang. This Liwo curse needed to be practiced in the southern Fan realm to have the best effect. No wonder, the Liwo sect of the eastern Fan realm was not only driven to the border of Cheng'an by the Silver Sword sect, but was also finally destroyed by Wanjian Mountain. "Brother Li," Zhu Yun pondered for a moment, and then came up with a plan. He said, "I will take you to a place suitable for your cultivation. Are you willing to go?" "Yes, of course." Li Emo was immediately very excited, and his eyes were full of excitement. Zhu Yun smiled slightly and said, "However, I have another question. Whether you know it or not, tell me the truth. Of course, this will not affect my previous decision." "Brother Zhu," Li Emo patted his chest and said, "I will tell you everything I know." "Okay," Zhu Yun put away his smile and asked in a deep voice, "Do you know where your ancestors of the Li family are?" As soon as these words came out, Li Mo's expression froze. Zhu Yun waited for 3 breaths, but did not wait for Li Emo to speak. He smiled again, waved his hand, and said, "I'll just ask casually. After I ask Brother Lin a question, we can leave." Li Emo lowered his head, feeling as if he had let Zhu Yun down. When Lin Xiaoqi saw Zhu Yun talking about him, he couldn't help but look curious. Their Lin family has an ancestral precept that they have been waiting here for generations, opening the door for the cultivators in the mortal world. If you want to ask me where the ancestors of the Lin family are, I can tell you that 180 generations are here. But who knows, Zhu Yun's words surprised him. "Brother Lin, do you want to continue practicing and pursue a longer immortal path?" Lin Xiaoqi was stunned for a while. He took a deep breath, smiled bitterly, "Brother Zhu, who doesn't want to continue practicing, but my Lin family's ancestral precepts let us stay here." Zhu Yun smiled and said, "If you pass on all the Pakuling Jingju, you don't have to wait here." Lin Xiaoqi was shocked. Although their Lin family was exterminated because of the heavenly talisman fragments, Pakuling Jingju also accounted for a large part. Zhu Yun said this casually, "Isn't he joking?" Zhu Yun knew what Lin Xiaoqi was thinking, and said with a smile, "The Lin family's ancestral precepts didn't say that the Shattering Spirit Eye's secret cannot be passed on, right? Most of the other mortal realms passed it on. If the Eastern mortal realm didn't pass it on, perhaps the progress of cultivation in the future would be much slower." After all, Lin Xiaoqi was alone. Even if he cultivated to the peak of the late nascent soul stage, He could only take 3 people through the passage at a time. This would result in very few cultivators from the Eastern mortal realm in the future. If these major mortal realms fight each other, he doesn't want the Eastern mortal realm to suffer. Brother Zhu, Lin Xiaoqi continued to smile bitterly, saying, even mortals are extremely yearning to cultivate immortals. You said that people like us who cultivate immortals don't want to continue to cultivate. That's it, Zhu Yun nodded, saying, if I say more, I will reveal the secret. All I can say is that you can pass on the Shattering Spirit Eye's secret, and there will be no problem. Secondly, the Shattering Spirit Eye's secret doesn't have much effect in the spiritual world. At this point, Lin Xiaoqi understood. Thank you, Brother Zhu. Okay, Zhu Yun nodded. Lin Xiaoqi has been waiting here for many years and has led many cultivators and demon cultivators from the Eastern mortal realm. Most of the people he has come into contact with are in the late nascent soul stage or the late demon king stage. His horizons have broadened and his mind has become more active. He doesn't need to say anything more. He bowed to Lin Xiaoqi and said, I wish Brother Lin will have a smooth path to immortality in the future. After saying that, he raised his hand lightly and took Li Mo into the holy lake. After going straight to the bottom of the lake and finding the teleportation array, the two entered the passage. Brother Zhu, are you going to take me to the spirit realm? The only place that Li Mo could think of for cultivation that was better than the mortal realm was the spirit realm. No, not to the spirit world, but to your ancestral land. Li Mo's face changed drastically. Brother Zhu, do you know everything? Yes, I know, but this matter is irrelevant. Brother Li, you just need to know that I, Zhu Yun, will not harm you. Zhu Yun remembered what price Li Mo paid to save him at that time. Now he has the opportunity to help him. He will naturally do it within his ability. Li Mo lowered his head and followed Zhu Yun until they reached an intersection. Zhu Yun took out a letter and stuffed it into Li Mo's hand, smiling, the past here is the southern Fan realm. You go to the Liwo realm and Liwo section, give this letter to anyone and you can practice there with peace of mind. In the land of Xiang, you will definitely be able to practice to the peak of the late nascent soul stage with the Liwo curse. Brother Zhu, I will never forget your great kindness. After Li Mo took the letter, he knelt down. Zhu Yun quickly helped him up, and then said with a smile, you and I are brothers. Although I have gone further on the path to immortality than you, I would not be where I am today without your help in Chuzhu. Remember, the most important thing in cultivating immortality is to stick to your original intention. Li Mo remembers it. Li Mo nodded repeatedly. He was no longer the young master who was always protected by his father in the section. He had seen and heard something when he followed Lin Xiaoqi. Zhu Yun was about to turn around and leave, but suddenly heard Li Mo calling him. Brother Zhu, we have a biggest secret in the Li family, I wonder if Brother Zhu knows it. Li Mo almost gritted his teeth and said it. Zhu Yun stopped and smiled, Liwo immortal venerable. Li Mo immediately exclaimed, Brother Zhu knows it. Liwo immortal venerable is dead. Zhu Yun's words were shocking, but who would have thought that Li Mo would say something that shocked him even more? Liwo immortal venerable will not die. Now, Zhu Yun stared with his eyes wide open, unable to calm down for a long time. Neither of them spoke. After standing at the intersection for a long time, Zhu Yun asked, I have been to the southern Fan realm and killed Liwo immortal venerable there. Now tell me, Liwo immortal venerable will not die. Liwo evil power lies in the word evil, evil means evil. Li Mo thought about it in his mind, and what he said made Zhu Yun frown tightly. Liwo immortal venerable is in the tribulation crossing stage. Hearing Li Mo say this, he really doubted it in his heart. But the question is, how do you know so clearly? Li Mo took a deep breath, because, I am the descendant of Liwo immortal venerable. What? Zhu Yun screamed in surprise, his face full of disbelief. Li Mo was somewhat at a loss, but after struggling for a long time, he said, "Brother Zhu, our lineage fled from the southern Fan realm because we knew the true purpose of Luo Immortal Venerable. Because we dared not go to the spirit realm, we came to the eastern Fan realm to reproduce. Then tell me, why Luo Immortal Venerable will not die?" Zuyun exclaimed, "If so, things may not be that simple." No wonder he dared to use the name of Immortal Venerable. The power of Luo Immortal Venerable's cultivation comes from all those who have Luo in their bodies. And he set up a sculpture in the southern Fan realm to make people believe in it, and from it they can get a power called the power of faith. Through this power, he can control all Luo. And we can only escape from his control by fleeing from the southern Fan realm. We are his descendants, but not his believers. Back then, our ancestors knew that Luo Immortal Venerable did not actually want to treat us as descendants, so they spent countless costs to escape to the eastern Fan realm. Li Mo told what he knew about his ancestors. But Zhu Yun's mind was full of 4 words. The power of faith. Eastern mortal realm, Chuzhu, underground fire vein. A red candle beast whose life or death is unknown, eyes closed, lifeless. He drifted in the fire vein. Because he was deep underground, no one could feel his presence, not to mention that those Yuanying stage had returned to their own sects. They needed to prepare a statue for Xiaohuo, just like the statue for Zuyun, to pass on the story of Xiaohuo saving the mortal world. Together with Zuyun. So no one noticed that Xiaohuo was not dead. His demon soul was dying in the face of Yao Fuzong's Yuan Shen. Even though he had been cultivating in the purest power environment, the gap in realm was a huge gulf that he and Yao Fuzong could not cross. As long as there was enough time, Yao Fuzong would survive, and Xiaohuo would die. Until the underground fire vein sent him to the bottom of a volcano. There was a bead, glowing with a faint green light, with vitality looming, but with despair. This is the fake wooden spirit bead that Zuyun threw down that year. I started my cultivation by picking up the immortal skills. Author, Banzuan Xianxia. Chapter 1080. Faith will never die, and the immortal Lord will never die. At the end of the sentence, Li Mo uttered these 8 words, which made Zuyun return to his senses in shock. He still remembered that there was a portrait of immortal Luo hanging at the entrance of the Luo sect. But he didn't know that after he left, Luo sect took the lead in replacing the portrait with himself. In fact, there are no longer statues or portraits of immortal Luo in the entire southern mortal realm. At this time, in his mind was the west mortal realm. Those devout monks in the pilgrimage square of Beihu City. At the entrance to the main passage of the true spirit realm, there is a huge statue of myself. He really didn't know much about the situation in the southern mortal realm. At that time, he thought that Luo Immortal Lord was dead. He was so relaxed that he really didn't notice it. Faith is immortal, Immortal Lord is immortal. Zuyun muttered something and said, I burned immortal Luo to ashes. From what you say, does he have an incarnation? If you practice the Luo evil skill to the extreme, it is said that you will become a ball of evil fire. I don't know what will happen next, but since my ancestor can still fight with you after so many years, I think he must have an incarnation. It's just that the incarnation will be a ball of incomplete evil fire. Zuyun took a deep breath. Although he also practiced the Luo curse, he thought that he could only practice it to the nascent soul stage at most. Therefore, he knows nothing about the Luo evil technique. Although I have gained a lot from Li Tianhuo, the later cultivation of Luo's evil skill was probably realized by immortal Luo himself. This is really bad news. Okay, I understand, Zuyun pondered for a moment and made a decision in his heart, you should go to the southern mortal realm. The evil fire incarnation of Luo Immortal Lord may be in the spiritual world, and you should be his only one. Descendants may be discovered when they go to the spirit world and suffer disaster. Zuyun had never heard of this kind of thing about seizing the blood of descendants, but relatively speaking, the effect would be better than seizing other people's bodies. Zuyun naturally didn't want to put Li Mo in danger. I know. Li Mo took a deep breath and said, I remember you told me about demon cultivation. It's not the skills that become demonic, but the human heart. I will not cultivate the Liwo curse into an evil skill. Appreciation flashed in Zuyun's eyes, and he patted his shoulder and said, Don't worry, you may be more familiar with the southern mortal realm than me. Practice hard, and at the same time, it is best to practice a method that can reduce the bloodline. In the future, it will be safer in the spirit world. Of course, after I go to the spirit world, I will deal with the evil fire incarnation of Liwo Immortal Lord as soon as possible. The premise is that you don't blame me for destroying your ancestors. Brother Zhu, what are you talking about? You use thousands of living beings in the mortal world to practice your own evil ways, and everyone will find them and punish them. I left home because I am ashamed of such people. As he said that, Li Mo clenched his fists. The two parted, and Zuyun went straight to the east exit. Soon, he appeared in a deep sea. Wild sea. Spiritual world, I'm back again. Zuyun is no longer the young man he was before, and there is no need to carefully check the situation around him. Just a casual sweep of his spiritual consciousness, and after finding that there was no danger or the giant monster of the deep sea, he suddenly jumped out. Feeling the familiar rich spiritual power, Zuyun's eyes sparkled. When I first came, there were deacons from the Five Elements sect on duty here. But this time, his spiritual consciousness spread far and wide, and he never felt anything. Let's go to Tianweishan first. It seems that Feng Qingyang was left in Sword Valley by me at that time. It just so happened that he didn't have a sword in his hand, and he didn't have any spiritual weapon to take advantage of. It was just right, let him find a self-defense weapon in the treasure house of Sword Valley. Zuyun was not in a hurry for success. He didn't understand anything about Liwo Immortal Lord. Moreover, there were no heavenly restrictions in this spiritual world. In the eyes of some monks, he was just a little ant. It is true that there is a vacuum zone above the nascent soul and below the tribulation. Almost all the monks died in the immortal ascension platform, but there is still a period of overcoming the tribulation. That dragon demon emperor, the master of Zhangdao, Chen Tianqiao's suppression of him is vivid in my mind. Not to mention, are there people like Immortal Liwo who practice evil arts? In addition, there is the Five Elements sect, which is also a trouble for him. But when he came to Tianho, he found that the situation seemed to have changed. Not only did Tianweishan fall to the ground, but some mountains also crashed into the territory of the Five Elements sect. Zuyun did not directly enter Tianzhong, but arrived within the Five Elements sect. The chaos power he has cultivated is particularly sensitive to whether a person practices the Five Elements Chaos Sutra. The power of his soul also allows him to see through low-level monks at a glance whether they are pretending. Walking within the Five Elements sect, there are not only ordinary monks, but also some mortals. This made him feel that he was in the wrong place, not the spiritual world, but the mortal world. Didn't you say that the Five Elements sect is domineering? Zuyun knew that something must have happened, maybe it started when Yayuan smashed the Five Elements Sanren to death, which made the Five Elements sect like a frightened bird. Would you like to go to Yayuan to inquire about Liwo Immortal Lord? If he is there, I believe it will be more convenient. But the problem is, his kid is obviously a person who forgets his loyalty. Lu Ruyan arrived in the spirit world before me. And I told him that Yayuan was in the North Icefield. I really regret it. Zuyun complained in his heart, but in desperation, he temporarily gave up the idea of asking Yayuan for help, and instead decided to go to Tianweishan to find Feng Qingyang. Fortunately, although Tianweishan has landed, the environment inside has not changed much. Zuyun still remembers the way to Sword Valley. But he had caused trouble in the heavenly world after all. Before entering, Zuyun drew a talisman for himself and used Shen Nan's appearance. After entering, Zuyun met some Yuanying cultivators from time to time. These people had one thing in common. They had hope for the immortal path in their eyes and were full of excitement. They did not look like the powerful people in the mortal world at all. The spirit world has changed. Zuyun did not know that they had just come from the various mortal worlds. After a period of time, they found that there was no danger in the spirit world, so they began to train in the heavenly world. If Zuyun used his original appearance, these people would have recognized Zuyun. After all, the name of Zhu Xian resounded throughout the four mortal worlds. After seeing Zuyun, these cultivators stopped and saluted Zuyun, and respectfully called him senior. Zuyun did not want to deal with them, so he just nodded slightly. After a long time, he rushed to the Sword Valley. The Sword Valley also changed its appearance. Less aggressive. Maybe it's because their strongest are only at the Jindan stage. Under the current situation, they can only keep a low profile. There are also people from the Feng family who may think that if they can't make spiritual swords, Tian Weishan may not be able to accommodate them. Senior, are you here to find a sword? A disciple guarding the valley entrance saw Zuyun coming and felt the invisible momentum, so he hurried forward and asked respectfully. Well, what good swords do you have? Can you take them out for me to see? Zuyun said lightly. May I ask what your cultivation level is? Those who can guard the valley naturally have a certain vision. Zuyun's momentum makes him feel that he is much stronger than the ordinary Yuanying stage, perhaps he is at the Huashan stage. That's why he dared to ask. Zuyun uttered two words, transformation. The Feng family member's eyes flashed with awe, and said, Senior, please go to the valley and tell us your requirements in detail. I will let the head of the family come out to make it for you personally. What's the name of the head of the family? Zuyun had already anticipated the situation and asked. The head of the family is Qingyang, and his sword-making method is the best in our Feng family. But I hope you don't despise us Feng family now that there is no great man in charge. The Feng family member still said it in advance. In fact, he was afraid that the swords made in the Sword Valley would not satisfy Zuyun. Feng Qingyang. Zuyun smiled slightly. Since he was an acquaintance, it would be easy to do things. Take me to see him. Senior, please come this way. Unable to see any dissatisfaction from Zuyun, the guard also breathed a sigh of relief in his heart, lowered his head and lowered his eyebrows, and led Zuyun all the way into the interior of the Feng family. In front of a sword-making furnace. Master, there is a senior who has reached the state of transformation to visit. Feng Qingyang was concentrating on controlling the temperature with the magic inherited from the Feng family. When he heard someone mention the word transformation outside, he immediately stopped refining the sword and walked outside. Hello, senior. I wonder what your name is and what are your requirements for the spiritual sword you need. Zuyun sighed in his heart. The environment really changes a person. At this moment, Feng Qingyang no longer looked like before, but seemed more stable. You should leave first. I will talk to Master Feng about the sword we need. Yes, senior. There was no one around, and Feng Qingyang was nervous for no reason. He also had an adventure in the Sword Valley. After Zuyun left, he got the real inheritance of the Sword Valley and broke through to the nascent soul stage in one fell swoop. Otherwise, he would not have become the master of the Feng family. But at this moment, there were only the two of them. Feng Qingyang could not help but form a mental connection with his shuttle. If there was an accident, he would escape immediately. Feng Qingyang, Zuyun chuckled, I am Zuyun, I need a sword.